Welcome to the Modus Edge, where we celebrate business, primarily youth sports facility management, leadership, and motivation. Co-hosted by Stacey Rowe, Cole Stott, Kevin Brubaker, and Casey Jones. We are here to fill your cup with knowledge, laughter, affirmations, and comfort knowing that you're not alone. You can and will succeed with the Modus Edge.
Hello, and welcome to the Modus Edge. We're so glad that you decided to join us this morning. I'm here with Casey Jones and Brittany Sterkle. We're here to talk about life and cheer and nutrition and crazy family things and all the stuff. And so welcome our guest, is Brittany from the metropolis of, I almost said Bozeman, but it is Bozeman. Sorry,
You're correct.
Missoula.
Yep.
Sorry.
I love can't say Missoula.
Sorry. From Bozeman, Montana. She's with Motion Athletics and a massive gym of cheerleading and dance and all the things out in Montana. And so welcome, Brittany.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here this morning.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And I love Bozeman. I've only been there twice, on my way to Big Sky to ski. But man, so beautiful out there.
Have you ever been during the summer, Casey?
I have not been during the summer. I really haven't spent a lot of time out west during the summer, and that's something that I would like to do more of. I mean, I love skiing and anything outside, but I really haven't seen it in the summer or spring.
Well, that's a perfect time to come here and host a competition. I mean, perfect timing. Come out west. It's gorgeous. We can get all the teams out here.
Maybe a fall competition, but even in the fall, you guys are starting to deal with the weather, so.
Well, I will tell you, last week it snowed here. So, you could have snow at any point of the year. Right. And then in the afternoon, it could be beautiful. So
that's wild.
It's Montana. You never know what you're going to get.
Well, I remember I grew up in Sheridan, Wyoming, which I think both of y'all knew. And I remember I was supposed to have this huge camping trip for my birthday in my freshman year of high school, which is September 14th. And we got 8 inches of snow, and that camping trip was canceled. I was like,
ruined the camping trip.
Snowed in September. I was like, it's crazy, but you're right. You never know out there. So
you could have worked on your survival skills, Kevin.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, Brittany, we go back a few years. Tell us about, let's start with, tell us about Motion. Tell us about cheer, dance, your awesome husband, Eric, who I think is amazing. And just tell us about your gym and your program and give us all the things about how easy it is to have a gym in Montana.
Easy. No, well, thank you for that nice introduction. My husband will actually listen to this now that he knows he was plugged. No, I'm just joking. Eric and I actually met, and he was a professional hip hop and break dancer. And so I had kind of started offering some cheer classes in his studio and just really saw the need of nobody was doing competitive cheer in Montana. So I was cheering for the Bobcats, moved to Bozeman. There was gymnastics, there was dance, but nobody was doing cheer. So kind of dabbled and started offering it in his dance studio to start. And then, that all evolved, and we got married later, and he decided to go back into more of the marketing world. And so then I decided, as he was closing, I was going to open a cheer gym. So I was coaching at the high school at the time, finishing out my degree at Montana State, which was in health promotion, kind of the fitness and wellness industry, and decided I'm going to start a cheer gym. So I started with 12 kids 17 years ago. And we just had a senior team at that point because I was coaching at the high school. So that was all that I had was those older kids. And I remember my first, we had no idea. I had no idea what I was doing, obviously, at all.
Kevin still doesn't, so it's okay.
That's kind of a funny story, though. And I'll get to that in just a quick second. But, I started in level 3. I had one kid with a roundup back handspring back tuck. One kid. And we competed level 3. There was just, you didn't know what you were doing at the very beginning. We didn't really know score sheet and all of the things.
Definitely gone level 5. I mean,
you would have thought. You would have thought.
They'll get it. You just got to push them a little bit. That's fine.
Yes, absolutely. So, clearly it was a learning curve. And then, I think it was probably the first year maybe that I was open, a colleague in Helena told me about this guy, Kevin Brubaker, that was going to be in Montana and doing stunt clinics. And I mean, I'm not trying to be me. I had no idea who you were, Kevin. I had no idea what a big deal you were.
Oh,
Him and his wife come in and they do this awesome clinic. I think they charged my kids like $10 each, it was super affordable, and did all these, just great basics and technique, and got to know Kevin and his wife. And they were just so like personable and down to earth. And, like 10 years later, get like really involved in the sport, maybe not 10 years later, 5 or 6. And I hear cheer sport. I'm like, wait a second, and just started
I
to
know
put
that guy.
these pieces together of like, wow, that guy came into my gym like years ago when I didn't even know what I was doing, and did a clinic. And so we kind of started that relationship way long ago when I was just first started out. But anyway, we started, super small. And now, we've got 7 competitive teams. We've got hundreds of kids that take weekly tumbling classes. We do birthday parties. We do, all sorts of things. And was able to make my hobby and kind of passion into my career. So for the first years, I was the head coach at Montana State. So I was coaching college cheer. I was doing personal training at the local athletic club, doing all of the things to try to survive and be a mom of 3. And finally, I think about 6 or 7 years into the business is when I kind of was able to let everything go and just run the gym and make it a full-time job and find little side hustles here and there, to survive. As all of us gym owners know, it's not easy.
yes.
No,
But
it's not. I tell this story often, but in the early days, like lunch depended on how well the Coke machine did the night before. So
I heard that story on the previous podcast, and I kind of giggled on that because, unless you're a gym owner, you really don't understand. And parents and everybody thinks, oh, you're making all these bucks. It's
Yeah.
such
it's tough,
expensive
especially
sport.
when you're starting and you're small,
Yeah.
and there's just a lot of expenses that go into it. And you're so right, because it's passion work for us. We love it. I fell in love with the sport in college, and then I was a young guy, I didn't have a lot of direction, and just finally found something that I loved. And then it was at that time there was really only 1 or 2 gyms in the Atlanta area, and it wasn't anything negative on them, but everybody was just trying to figure it out. No one knew how to run it like a business. So, it was passion work for us, and we loved it, but it was hard to even buy lunch. So
I can remember in the early, in our early 90s, literally keeping track of every class day by day on a 3x5 card. And I would do tallies on the card because you didn't have computer systems back then. And so I was, trying to figure out how many classes, because obviously I made more money the more I taught. So as soon as I turned that class over to somebody else, I'm making less money. And so trying to figure out how much money do I need to make to pay rent first and foremost, and be able to pay my electric bill and, all those things. But I remember doing it on a 3x5 card and hoping that the tallies were more than the negatives kind of thing. And so, in the early days, but it was just because I loved it, and it was better than flipping burgers. So I was like, I'm going to do this as long as God will let me. So yes.
I remember my first
through the summer.
my first little gym was like a tiny, I think it was, so my husband's dance studio closed down and I took over his space. And then we bought an old foam floor from a gymnastics studio here in town. And it was like foam blocks underneath the floor. It was just like pieced together at probably 20-year-old floor, but that's all I could afford. And my entryway was a like 8x10 table or whatever, just a foldable table with a notebook that I would write down their name and which classes they were in, and, write off if they paid their tuition. And, it's awesome to see where it's come now, to have a front desk and 2 floors and a tumble track and, all of the equipment and, so a bounce house for birthday parties. So anybody who's starting anywhere, as long as you got drive and you're willing to put in the work and not give up, it's not easy. And you're not, it's not for everybody, right? Like, so I don't know. It just took a lot of faith, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Current space you moved into a year or 2 ago, did I make that
So
up?
we've been in our current space for about 10 years, like the current building. But about a year and a half ago, one of the units down the way opened up, and really we didn't have much reason to move. It wasn't a big like change in space, but we were trying to help out a neighbor who needed our space to expand. So it was kind of a collaborative effort, but I looked at it as an opportunity. We like upgraded our logo, we redid our space, basically everything that I wanted to change in our current space. We used it as an opportunity to change we expanded our floor.
A little bit of a rebrand.
Yeah, a little bit of a rebound. I had just like shattered my leg in a dirt biking accident.
I remember that because you were coming
that.
to Nashville.
Yes.
Which you still haven't been to yet, the business
I'm
expo.
coming this year. The third time's the charm. Third time's the charm. We're going to make it.
Yeah, because I remember you sent me the floor plans of your new space, and I was like, it's the same size. And so I was so confused by it. I was like, why?
Yes.
You know, anyway, but I remember, but parking was better or something was better. You were being a good neighbor. And so
I was trying to like pay forward being a good person because it really ended up costing me a lot of money. It wasn't, you know, it has been great. The parking has been better. We've made changes. We've made it positive. But, you know, none of us in Bozeman, real estate is insane right now. There's really nowhere to go. And, you know, we have two other people that are on each side of us. And it was either like work with each other or we were just going to have, you know, tension between us as business owners, and everybody's trying to survive. So we made the best of it. But yeah, I had just broken my leg. So it was a lot of work for my husband really at that time. As I was hobbling around trying to move things. And we really didn't tell our community, our gym, that we were moving because we've talked about moving for years. So I knew our kids were going to be like, oh my gosh, where are we moving? We're so excited. And we're going to be like,
next door.
So we literally like hit it and we moved over Thanksgiving break, you know, 4 days off and just moved it all. And then we're like, surprise. And then it was fun and exciting. But yeah, we kept it on the down low for sure. So.
That's pretty cool. I always try to be out of town whenever there's any moving going on. I certainly don't wish breaking their leg on anybody, but
yes, it's a lot of work. Moving is, you know, I mean, hopefully one day we'll have our own gym. We've been renting since we began. We had property a few years ago to buy, and there was just a whole hold up, you know, but somebody gave me the advice, you know, years and years ago of starting my building of don't get too big too fast. You know, you operate in a box, don't make that box too fancy, you know, like, you know, in Bozeman, you know, your requirements to have like certain windows and certain entryways and like the aesthetics is so much like in the building process that, you know, to build a warehouse, a multi-million-dollar warehouse, you know, there's just so many hours that you can offer competitive cheerleading, you know? So we have to make it financially make sense. And for right now that's renting, but
we're Kevin and I are both dealing with that exact same thing right now. Him a little more than me. He's got to move. He's looking for a spot and
a year from now. So my lease is up and it's tough.
Isn't your square? Didn't you tell me your building's like 40,000 square feet?
Yeah, so our building's 60, and we have half of it, so we have 30,000 square feet, and it's not enough. We're way too small. We have massive parking problems, and we're having to leave, and we want to leave. It's just been harder to find a spot than I ever imagined since COVID. You know, we thought, we'll find a warehouse, we'll find some land to buy, but trying to stay in the Matthews area of Charlotte, we're in Eastern Charlotte. It's been tough, but we have a couple options. And this time, a year from now, we'll be moving into a new space. So Casey, you need to plan your trip to Charlotte. You can make up for all your lack of moving.
I heard he signed up to help move. He was going to coordinate it all for you,
Since I had
Kevin.
that second hip replacement, not really, but I think I'm busy that week. Yeah, it's tough out there right now. Everything's super expensive. You know, we're blessed to have two great spots, but we're kind of at capacity. We'd like to explore growing a little bit, but you know, I look at a building and it's $5 million and it needs $2 million worth of work and just can't afford it. So everything's really, really expensive right now. So we'll see.
Crazy. So it'll all work out. But yes, so Montana is growing. It's really exciting to see so many other gyms, you know, like all the surround, you know, everybody, when we're on these calls, I hear about talking in your area where there's multiple gyms, you know, there's multiple gyms down the road. here, the closest cheer gym to me is an hour and 30 minutes away, so we kind of all do our thing, but then we all can kind of be supportive of each other. So obviously we come together, compete against each other, gyms from Missoula and Helena and Billings, different cities. But, the more successful I am, the more successful everybody else is, because we have places to compete against in our state. Like if we're all not competitive, we have to travel so far to compete. It's really hard because financially it gets to be too much for our families. So it is good that more and more gyms are popping up in Montana.
That's why they sign up, is to compete. Sometimes people lose sight of that. We've got to create this year-long experience. But the reality is competitive cheerleading is just that, competitive. So you got to have folks.
Right.
We're blessed to be in an area with a lot of competition. And that's been something I'm really proud of for the state of Georgia, because we have, I feel like we've grown to one of the largest cheerleading states. And it's because there's so many good gyms. That's the thing. Like what are surrounding us. I mean, really within a 15 to 30 mile area, there's probably 15 or 20 gyms, all ranging in size. There's some that are small, but then there's also some that are really large. And just what I've found that, we all grow together. When everybody's growing, everybody's growing. And when, unfortunately, if it goes the other direction, then that's not a positive thing. But that competition has helped. I always say this, there's a reason that Home Depot and Lowe's build right across the street from each other, and it's not to put each other out of business. So,
yeah.
We have the same thing in Charlotte. Charlotte, we have a dozen programs easily in a 20-mile radius of the Charlotte area. And so it's growing. And then, Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem has another dozen programs, and Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill has another dozen plus programs. And so we have a lot. That North Carolina has quite a few programs as well. And South Carolina does too. Columbia and Greenville, Spartanburg. I mean, Charleston has 2 or 3 really good programs, and it's a beach community, but there's some really good gyms down there. So there's a lot of cheerleading in the Southeast.
So in our entire state, we probably have, 8 to 10 gyms, period. So it's in our entire state, which is great.
And that's a pretty big state.
It's a huge state, but I was in 2003 is when I graduated high school, and we created the first. So the year before I graduated high school, created the first competitive team. Wow. First competition we went to. Well, we went to one tiny little one in Washington, and then we're like, we're going to go to Florida. And we went to a huge competition in Florida. Had no idea what we were doing, clearly. But competitive cheer started in Montana in 2002, 2003. So it really hasn't been around that long comparative, to have.
Do you know how many programs are in Montana or in Wyoming?
No. Oh, maybe 2 or 3.
I think it's 2. And so I may be wrong, but I think it's only 2. But yeah,
Wyoming's pretty small. And then there's a gym that's been coming to us from South Dakota. I don't know if you guys, I don't know if we can mention gym names at all, but
sure.
I think their gym name is called Prism, and they're a new gym, but man, those kids are good. They're a competitive dance program. They've driven to we host a local competition once a year, Eric and I do, called Fusion. It's a, small event, but they come, 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours.
Wow.
And the first year kind of watched, and it was just more of a scoring thing, knowing the score sheet. And once they've nailed down the score sheet, they're really good in this tiny little town in South Dakota. So, it's awesome to see all these programs growing. You don't have to be this giant program to be competitive.
Right.
But yeah.
For sure.
Well, what do you guys want to talk about? You want to talk about nutrition, or should we just keep talking cheerleading? Because I can talk cheerleading all day long.
Kevin's supposed to talk about some CX brands here in a second.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Let's do it.
Before we move into that, we love having gym owners on. So thank you so much for coming on today. And if any of you are out there that are listening that would like to be our guest, join us on www.joinmodus.com/podcast. And fill out our Be Our Guest form, because we love to have gym owners on and more folks. So, but anyway, Kevin's going to tell us a little bit about CX brands.
So Cheer Expo started a couple years ago, and it's now become CX Brands. So our website is thecxbrands.com. So that's THECXBRANDS.com. So we have 4 different event companies, starting with the Cheer Expo, Cheer X, Excel Championship, and Excite Championship. So we do events all over the country. I think we're up to 16 now. New events this year are in Vegas, Dallas, Houston. New Orleans, Philadelphia. We just added, oh, goodness gracious, Hartford, Connecticut. And then we have a Myrtle Beach event at the middle of April. And then also forming the Prime Alliance with other event producers. And we have a brand new event in Fort Lauderdale the second weekend of May. So you can check out our website at thecxbrands.com. So love for you to check it out.
Yeah.
You were missing Montana on that list, Kevin. What's that?
Well, we didn't want to interfere. We knew that you already had the Fusion event.
Yeah.
So Kevin didn't want to come in. Like
Got it.
We're good friends.
Well, I can say Brittany competed with us a couple times last year. She came to Ontario from Montana, and then she brought a couple teams to our Nashville National event in the middle of March. And so, you have anything nice?
I was going to say, can I give you guys a little plug on those?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I would highly encourage all of these events for anybody listening. The event was top notch, as you know, all of their events are very smooth. Things were on time. Warm-ups were smooth. Coach's hospitality room was on point and incredible.
It's my favorite.
Hey, I mean, it's a big deal when you're a coach and you're running multiple teams and, you know, you're there all day long, like just to have some the events that just take care of the coaches, or for a gym owner, it feels like they have to pay for every single meal for their staff at concessions when they're getting a $20 pretzel, you know, like it gets super expensive.
Yes, it does.
And then, you know, just like everybody was encouraging to each other. You know, it felt like the vibe was very, very good and positive, encouraging. Some events, some big, large events, you know, go to and you're just another number.
Right.
I did not feel that way at all. We were greeted. We were welcomed. Everybody was super personable. The scoring was awesome. You know, we had no scoring issues. If we had any questions, I think we had one question for a deduction and went back, talked through, you know, whoever was running their AccuScore was awesome and, you know, went through everything with us step by step. So
it was awesome because
impressed.
you had a full belly. We have found that no one gets nearly as mad if they're full. So if you're hangry and mad about your score, then it's over. So got to keep everybody
I think the one
fed.
thing I want to plug the most, that was the most valuable to me, probably, maybe most is a big thing, but for any of the Modus members in Nashville, you guys did a routine review if you wanted to sign up for that.
Yeah.
And that 30 minutes was probably the most valuable 30 minutes I've gotten. Wow. You know, you get a judge's score sheet, which is great. That's awesome to get that judge's feedback. But for somebody to actually like walk through the routine through you, we had our running in our junior two, our power hurdle round off 2. And she literally like circled at our feet, you know, or in our round of handspring talks, you know, so like circled where we were losing drivers and where we were losing that technique score.
Wow.
Going through step by step. So the routine review was so valuable.
Oh, that's awesome.
You guys included it for any Modus members. But yes, it was an incredible experience. Judging was great. Obviously, Kevin's awesome. Does a very good job at, you know, what he does of making
Casey,
everybody.
I heard that.
Casey. I'm sorry, Casey. I got to give you plugs too, but you know, Kevin's
so the lady
Kevin's
that did your review, she came from me. So
so really all of that I just said was really because of
me.
So
no, Chrissy did that, and she is wonderful. She really
was fantastic. I would hire her to do my routine reviews throughout the season because I mean that was the end of our, you know, towards the end of our season. I would love something like that.
She does them. So if you need her contact, let me know. I'm happy to send you her way. She is great.
But yes, everything was top notch. So I was very impressed.
You said you've listened to other podcasts, so it's time for our dad joke. So
I did tell, and when I filled out my little form, I said the only thing I do not have is a dad joke. So,
all right,
Casey, that's all you, buddy.
I got one for you, and I think you guys can figure this one out too. So it's not as hard. What do clouds do when they become rich? What do clouds do when they become rich?
They rain.
Make it rain. Boom. There we go. Boom, boom. So
awesome.
I knew we could figure that one out. Most of them you can't figure out, but that one you could. So,
Brittany, you mentioned Modus, which we appreciate. So, Casey, can you give us a Modus commercial? Give us some info about Modus.
I absolutely can. So, Modus is a community of gym owners working together to help each other grow. As a member of Modus, you get access to our Gym Owners Vault, which includes templates for every aspect of your business. We continue to add new resources constantly. In addition, you are added to the private VIP Owners Facebook group, as well as the opportunity to join monthly webinars geared towards gym owners. You also receive amazing discounts from our Prime Alliance event producers, the Cheer Expo, Choice Events, All Out Brands, All Day Cheerleading, and American Spirit Championships, and our awesome affiliates Infinity, Cheer Sounds, Bookshop Fundraising, and more. As a member of Modus Business Expo As a member, you get to attend the Modus Business Expo Conference, September 28th through 30th in Nashville, Tennessee. Awesome business conference. It's 2 days of business development, leadership, and growth. The Business Expo is designed to specifically help gym owners to grow their business as well as increase their profits. So this year we're hosting the Pioneers of All-Star book launch to celebrate the Pioneers book that Miss Stacy has written. I have been blessed to already be able to read that. It is wonderful. So excited to be able to launch that. So join the movement today at www.joinmodus.com. Once again, that is www.joinmotus.com.
Awesome. Thank you. So we are excited about Nashville. Brittany, I know third time's a charm is going to be really great. So
I am signed up. 28th through the 30th, right?
Yes, you got it.
Don't break a leg.
See?
Yeah. Don't do that again.
Yeah,
so
I can't do that.
I want to talk about your passion of nutrition and all-stars and how this is impactful to athletes. It is very important. And so also can kind of be a taboo topic. And so difficult to address sometimes. So give us your knowledge, give us your insight, because, Casey and I are very fit physically and love nutrition. So give us
You already hit the gym this morning, right?
Yeah,
you both got your workouts in? Good job. Nice work.
I actually am pretty fit. So, but Kevin, you pay attention.
I'm under 200 pounds, so I'm happy. So,
hey, I think though that that goes into just like overall wellness too. You guys run ragged for how many months of the year, just like with producing events and running gyms and, all of these things. I think, health and wellness and nutrition can go into the athletes. Absolutely. But it can also go into us as gym owners and event producers and everybody who were trying to do these like super high, powerful things that take our bodies. It puts a lot of wear and tear on our bodies, those long competitive days, like getting, that's where I go with my athletes. They'll come in for practice and be like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, well, what'd you eat today? Oh, I haven't eaten since lunch. I'm like, it's 7:00 at night. How do you think you're going to get through a 2-hour practice?
Right.
Or they come in and, they've got these giant venti Starbucks, full of sugar and full of caffeine and nothing good. Or before competition days, what are the lines at the competitions? Giant lines at Starbucks,
Wetzel's
getting
pretzel.
no nutrients into their bodies before they're supposed to go do this incredibly challenging routine. So I just see it. It's been a huge issue that I've seen over the years. And that started with me in high school. I thought that if I could be as skinny as possible, I would be a cheerleader, and, didn't have proper nutrition, went through eating disorders. And honestly, like that sparked my entire career. It sparked about not being skinny and not worry that's not what is my body needs. My body needs to be healthy. My body needs to be strong. And the stronger you can be, the better athlete you can be mentally, physically, emotionally. So I got super into health and fitness, started lifting weights my junior and senior year of high school, went to college, to go into health promotion. And then that's where I really was like, gosh, if I was going through that as a teenager, I never want a kid to not do cheerleading because they think they're too big, or they're not fit enough. Somebody I've done this for now, 16, 17 years. And just the other day, somebody said, oh, I would love my daughter to cheer, but she's too tall. So I've never gotten her into it. And I was like, too tall?
We love that.
Do you know what cheerleading is? We love tall girls. I need tall girls. And she's like, well, I thought cheerleaders were just small and little. And he said, have you ever watched competitive cheer? Know what competitive cheer is? I said, man, those tall girls are throwing those smaller girls in the air and catching them and,
Right.
tossing them back up. And, even our tall girls, we talk all the time, like if you have body control and you have flexibility, you can fly too. So
Absolutely.
we need all shapes and sizes, short, tall,
Absolutely.
So,
everything.
we need it all.
Brittany,
So
yeah, I don't know if you know this, but my family actually dealt with some major nutrition issues as well. I had a daughter at 13 years old who went through an eating disorder.
I didn't know that.
Literally stopped eating on a Wednesday, and we were in the hospital on a Saturday. And then that took off into really a year of inpatient treatment. Kind of came out of nowhere for us. This was not a girl who was a flyer or who we thought had any, issues with trying to stay small, but literally just cut off all eating. So something near and dear to us, and something within
I didn't know that. That gets real near and dear to my heart.
In our program that, we look for. We try to help kids. And one of the biggest things for us, because you're absolutely right on the nutrition and eating the correct foods and fueling your body correctly. But one thing that hit me in one of these meetings, or I think it was a counseling session with my daughter, and this lady corrected me. She's like, hey, you need to teach her that no food is bad food, because she wasn't eating at all, So we had to then circle back around, and I had to kind of change the ways I thought about some things. And like, man, it is better to eat some chicken nuggets and some fries before practice than to eat nothing before practice.
Absolutely.
And lo and behold, that came into play. Like some months later, we had a girl who in our program, and she was not restricting, but she was running 5 miles a day. She was on a world team, and she was only eating broccoli. So literally nothing to fuel her body. So, I mean, goodness gracious, we could probably talk for hours over this stuff, but the nutrition is such a big piece. And these kids don't understand how many calories they're burning and what you've got to put into your body to fuel that. And it's important because, that's a thing. These can lead to lifelong issues and obviously, it sounds like you have been through it as well, or lived part of that as well, but it can really be a lifelong issue if not corrected.
For sure. Brittany, what would you say are a couple of pointers for coaches or gym owners to really drive home to their athletes, during the season and especially competition time?
I think Casey just said it, like just saying it. I think coaches don't want to talk nutrition because we're scared we don't have a degree in it, or we don't know exactly what to say, or we're afraid to like offend somebody. Right. My daughter has stage 3 kidney disease. She's 13 years old. We found out about a couple years ago. So she has to really limit her salt intake, but she's a 13-year-old girl. That's all she wants to do is eat salt, so we fight about it all the time. But again, you try not to fight about it because you're not wanting to create more issues, like more of a, you can't have this. So then of course, if somebody tells you you can't have it, that's exactly what you want. Right. And so just yesterday she was getting some stuff done, and it's noon. I'm on this podcast talking about nutrition and importance of nutrition. And the doctor asks her, what have you had to eat today? She said, some goldfish. And I just died because I'm like, okay, Deja, you've got to eat something. Like, I'm not saying you have to have this perfect meal, but you have to get something in your body. Right. So I think when Casey said that, it just like hit that memory of, I just dealt with that yesterday with my own kid. So I think it's just talking to our athletes about, hey, what'd you eat before practice? Or, hey, make sure you're drinking water. Hydration is a huge thing for these athletes too. Like I kind of like went into coffee or energy drinks. Like they all put these things in their body that are not great, where it's like, hey, we need water, we need electrolytes, we need better things in our body to be able to produce what we need to on the floor. Or like for us Montana people, we go from, freezing weather to an 80-degree temperature to compete, and like their bodies are not used to that. So hydration is huge. So I think for coaches, simplicity. I have a background in health and wellness, but I'm not a dietitian or a registered, nutritionist. So I have in the past hired and I'm happy to share this from somebody that I've hired, a professional, to create just like a meal plan for our kids. So every year at the beginning of the year, we just do like a 30-minute talk on nutrition. So we just talk about the basics like protein, carbohydrates, fats. You get these teenagers that think, oh, I can't have any carbohydrates. Your bodies need carbohydrates. They have
Right.
to have it to be able to have the fuel sources in order. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have a bag of chips to get your carbohydrates. You could have a bagel and cream cheese. And so she just kept it I think we need to keep nutrition extremely simple, but get the importance that our kids need to eat because they need the fuel sources. I also am huge on like, if these kids are eating good foods throughout the year, their sickness goes down. They're not sick all the
Right.
time.
Totally
These
agree.
kids aren't they're eating, sugar all the time and all these bad things. And then, they're sick all the time. But then we ask, or they're not sleeping. Like sleep is a huge thing. Again, we can make this a 4-hour podcast. But if they're eating correctly, they're going to be healthier. They're going to have more energy. Their injuries are going to go down. If they're not eating and they're not fueling their bodies and they're coming and they're trying to go do a 3-hour practice with 3 full outs, their bodies just aren't there. So then they're going to get tired and then those little mistakes happen, which cause injuries. So I think with coaches, just simplicity, talking about, what they're putting in their bodies. And then at the end of every practice, I'm always like, hey, make sure to go home and refuel, get a good dinner in, all those things. I'm sorry, Casey, I cut you off.
No, you were good. I love that part about the simplicity because
Right.
sometimes, there's the internet and Instagram and all this and the macros and measure this and measure that. And that's the thing we've tried to do with our kids. Just make it simple. Hey man, drink some water and eat, and make sure you eat before and after.
Right.
We had a kid this year at Summit and she walked off the stage. I think it was Summit, but she walked off the stage and then kind of got dizzy. And then we're talking to her and it's like, that's the first thing I asked. What have you eaten? I didn't eat today. I was nervous. There you go. And that's what we're preaching. Like, you can't do that. I've learned that from my own fitness. If I want to get sick in the stomach, like, don't eat, and it's the opposite. Some people think the opposite, like if I eat, I'm going to get sick. No, it's the opposite. You gotta fuel your body. Like
I do the opposite and eat double, and that works out fine for me. So it's like,
well, and that was one of the other things that
sweets.
So funny, but my son is a very like intense basketball player, high school, very competitive. And he had lifting last summer. And at the end of lifting, he said, oh, our coach gave us Swedish fish. And, joking about like, that's what before the session, they gave him Swedish fish. And again, I think it was like the coach knew that they hadn't all eaten. So he was giving him a quick energy source to get a little sugar and, get through. Now I'm not promoting everybody Swedish fish, but if that's what works, like, I always in our backpack and have, very simple things like a granola bar or a fruit snack or something, so that if I do have that kid backstage that is like, I was so worried about getting ready, I forgot to eat, at least I can throw them a granola bar or something, simple, something that can fuel them, but then trying to make those things different so that next time we don't go into that, or I was seeing that nobody was eating lunch before competition, so instead we have team lunch and we order, Jersey Mike sandwiches or Subway or something simple, then make everybody take, whether that's a quarter of a sandwich, at least they're getting something with, carbohydrates, proteins, fats to be able to fuel efficiently. But, simple thing. And also like our bodies as adults are different. They have different needs of what, I can't eat like I did when I was 16 or it catches up to me, like our bodies change, our metabolisms change. But even the nutritionist that put this plan together for my kids, when I was looking at it, it was like peanut butter and jellies and chocolate milk and, things that I maybe would think are a little bit higher on the sugar content, but she's like, they need those fuel sources for their age, they need those fuel sources.
Yeah, they're constantly growing. And
yep.
You see it. I've especially seen it with my boys, goodness gracious, they'll eat you out of house and home because they're constantly
I made my son lunch yesterday, 3 turkey sandwiches, and he ate them all. Like it's just the amount of food is, but again, they need to eat. So if he's going to go and eat fast food, at least he's getting fuel in his body because he just worked out for 5 hours,
We've had, Casey's middle son, Harrison, works events for us, and he's got a good friend, Jacob, that works events for us. And when we go out to eat, Cole's a little bit of a foodie, but we'll order food, and there's anything that's left over. Those two boys, I mean, they're 19, and they just consume literally everything. And so it's like they will literally eat like 2.5 meals. It's amazing. And I remember I was like that, just a couple of days ago, actually. But in general, those boys, they can eat like there's no tomorrow. It's amazing.
I'm still kind of like that. I have a really big appetite. I was very into cycling for a long time, and I was riding 50 or 60 miles a day. So I built up this huge appetite. And the problem is when you keep that appetite and then you don't cycle that much anymore. Yep. So,
but I think that's like, even hearing you guys talk, like my teenage boy, then I'll go out to lunch with my senior team, and watching some of these girls like barely eat. I think we just, as like coaches and mentors and things like that, we need to train these, all these little humans that we love and care about so much, that eating is good for you. You have to eat, and it is good for you. The more you eat, the more your body can burn, and then the more your body can do. But when I see them like nibbling, and it's society, and it's so sad. It's social media. It's all the things. I get a lot of girls upset with me, but I don't allow crop tops in my gym. We do full tops, and and then that's probably goes back to my insecurities in high school. But if I have one kid that doesn't want to come to my gym because they're concerned about being in a crop top, they don't feel good and confident about themselves, like that one kid means for everybody that I'd rather, them all feel confident.
I love that. We did the same thing for many years. We didn't hold to it. We dropped it a couple of years ago, but I do love what you're doing there. So
we still do Solid All-Stars. So the traditional
full tops.
Oh yeah.
No way. They think I'm like the only one in the country that doesn't allow this.
You're not allowed to wear a sports bra. Guys have to wear their shirts no matter what.
We did that
guys,
with the
I needed that because
we did that with the guys. I make the guys wear their shirts. So occasionally I come in there late at night, and there might be a couple left stunning around with their shirts
off. Sneak it in, right? Sneak it in.
You got to put shirts on.
Hey, Brittany, you said your senior team. You had a super senior that was just awesome last year. I love that kid. So I want to give her a shout out. Cora.
Yep,
yes,
she's awesome.
She is such a cool kid. So Cora, if you're listening, thanks for being awesome for Motion last year and being such a good leader for that team. She really was cool
incredible.
Kid. So yeah. So, well, I know that Stacy loves Simon Sinek, and so I never heard of Simon Sinek till I started doing these podcasts with Stacy. But
Kevin, you don't read, so
you're right, not reading. I do read my Bible, and I do read Sports Illustrated app. That's about it. So
Bible and Sports Illustrated. I mean, todally good.
So anyway, we do a quote from him every podcast, and so today's podcast or today's quote is: "In order to stand out, we first have to know what we stand for."
Oh, so I like that. That's awesome.
That's pretty fitting for a lot of what you've been discussing today, Brittany. So what's that mean to you? How does that?
Oh man, like that's everything, right? Like you've got to be able to know what you stand for before you try to be a leader in any industry. And especially when we're working with youth and young kids, I just was having this conversation with a new coach last night of like, any coach, I love the quote of like, any coach can change a routine, but a great coach can change a life, and I always tell my parents, it's so much more than cheerleading.
Yes,
we're not just here to come to cheer. We're teaching them, again, even like with the nutrition, we're teaching them lifelong habits that can start when they're little and go all the way to their adulthood and teach their kids and, just work ethic and showing up. But, if you don't know what you stand for, then you're not going to go anywhere. So integrity.
Or you gotta figure it out. I often talk about, I got into this sport for me. If I'm going to be really honest about it, I was going to show everybody how great I was, but I've stayed in the sport for the kids, because when I started, I wasn't much more than a kid myself. So I didn't know, I didn't know what I stood for. I didn't really have principles, it was, I'm going to show the world how great I am, and then I got humbled pretty quickly. And like I said, you stay in it for the kids and you find the true meaning of what we're doing it for, which is them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I mean, I do love the kids. I love that aspect of it. I got to coach both my daughters. That was amazing. But I think even more for me is what I stand for on a daily basis of who I am as a Christian and as a man and as a husband and as a father. But I really I love the gym business piece. I really do. Even all those years with cheer sport, I love talking to coaches, and, Modus, adds to that. And the Cheer Expo adds to that, and being able to talk to coaches and help their business. I mean, we have a good business and we have a good business model. We do some good things. We do some not so good things at Charlotte All Stars as well. But, overall, I really love that aspect. And so what I stand for is who I am as a person, but that transitions to being able to help people with their business and their gyms and being able to do things in their lives and just help them as coaches and gym owners, because it's not easy every day, as we all know. And so
absolutely.
And I think as gym owners too, I mean, that's, your kind of side is, Modus and the competitions. And that's kind of where I've kept my passion and love for like the nutrition side and, promoting products that I love and that help me and help others. But I think as gym owners, it's really good to have kind of some sort of a side hustle, like if you're only doing, the routines and you're only doing the coaching and, you got to do something to keep your mind fresh, or whether that's leadership training or, coaching or in a different way. Like, I think it's good to keep in different avenues, obviously for revenue, to bring revenue streams in, but also just to challenge you a little bit, because if you're only dealing with cheer parents all day long, every single day, it can get a little daunting, a little wearing. But, that's the nice thing of being an owner. Like, I can coach a little bit and run the business and then go in. And this year I took on my mini team. Like, I haven't taken on a mini team in like so many years.
Wow.
That's awesome. I loved it. Like, I don't know if they love me, because I mean, I'm pretty strict, but those kids just come in and just like, you tell them to do something, they're like, okay, coach, and just that energy and fire. That's awesome. I think as anybody, if you've done the same thing for so long, you got to find different ways. So you've coached your seniors forever, try coaching a different team, or, try teaching a different class. Like, I think just training our bodies. If we all just ran 5 miles every single day, it would be so boring,
and it stops working.
It stops working. Yeah, it's not effective.
You don't get the same thing from it anymore.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
So mixing up nutrition, but just ultimately getting our kids to eat.
Yeah. What I hear from you is, we've got to continue learning,
yes.
And sometimes if we just do the same thing over and over, we don't learn, we don't grow. So, just being open-minded and continue to learn. I love to learn from others. We talk often about Modus and business and things like that, but I love to talk shop, because I know no matter how well we do it, I know that somebody does at least one thing better than me.
100%.
And I want to know that one thing so that I can, bring that into our business and share that with our customers and our kids. So it's been great having you on today. It was awesome to connect with you. And thank you so much for taking time to spend with us today. And I hope to see you in Nashville without a broken leg this year.
I'll be there. It's on the calendar.
Yeah. So for everyone else, be sure to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and X at Join Modus. And whenever you listen to your podcast, give us a like or shout out. If you like what we're doing and you want to hear more, let us know. And hey, if you have a gym, join the movement and sign up for Modus today.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. God bless you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to The Modus Edge. We hope you had a blast. Join us next week for more on business, leadership, and motivation. Subscribe and follow the show where you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter at joinmodus.com. The Modus Edge podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.